I remember looking at this loom when I was a child. It's always been in our family.
Behind the loom. Well, this was interesting because given the title, I actually expected this to be about a loom or people who use the loom and work with the loom, something about looms. But the story behind this specific one was that of obviously very sad and tragic, and just, I guess I was just very enlightened. Uh, so sad. I mean, this is such a tragedy in her family, but I'm sure it's not the only case where this has happened. Um, I wrote down a few things that she said, like what is the role of women in society? That women are really resilient until they can't be anymore. Um, Deprive a country of civilization. Society silences women. Just systematic campaign of rape, holding them down. Women being silent, untold, victims of war. Just a really interesting. Oh, by the way, I really liked the visuals, the animation, the pictures. I just thought the effects were cool. The opening shot of the title was neat to me. I really liked all of those things. The sound was great with the loom, the sound of the looms and the birds. But of course, this was just such a tragic story. But I admire that she shared this with everyone. So well done. I thought this was really well done, put together very well, just enlightening. So good job.
I really rock with Behind the Loom. It was deeply moving as far as the idea of just letting her tell the story with all the ums and the pauses and like take her time with it and really like sit with it. I think that was a great choice. I like the visuals. I'd never seen a documentary told in this way as far as with the visuals, as far as this style of B-roll, and I rocked with it. I think it added to the emotion, you know what I mean? It felt like that as a viewer, it felt like that day when you learn about the Holocaust and they bring a Holocaust survivor in and everybody's like tears and affected and moved by it. It's the same type of vibe, I felt like. So it was effective then and it's effective now. So great job.
I really enjoyed Behind the Loom. I thought that it was a really interesting way to visually tell a story, and the story is so compelling. Um, I really liked the pacing of it. I really liked all of the connections that were made, and it was just really good storytelling. And I thought that the visuals were stunning. They were really thoughtful and interesting. They didn't distract or take away from the story. I think that they added to it and complemented it very well. And wow, it's just one of those stories that really stick with you. Like, that's heavy, that's powerful. And just what an impossible choice to have to make, right? And I liked when she said that, you can try to hold down a group of people and their descendants, and then you try to hold down that the descendants and then their descendants, but people, families persevere, and their lineage was able to live on, and that story can be remembered and kept close to the heart. And we think that these things and these atrocities are so far removed from us, but they're really not. It was not that long ago, and atrocities like that are happening in other parts of the world currently. But families hold on to that trauma. It doesn't just end with there. It is intergenerational in so many different ways. So I'm just really grateful to have learned about this story, and just the incredibly strong women that are part of it.
These reviews for Behind the Loom, I love the addition with the loom sound in the background. This recount of a tragedy that entails an impossible decision, a very sensible approach to a grave topic. The interaction of the images and the animation and the voice of it works very well in the final product. They talk about the terrible reality of war, the systematic abuse, the women's sacrifices, and all with regards to the siege of Berlin. It is just very frustrating to still hear stories about war and how we still keep doing awful things to each other. I love to hear about the four daughters, the loom, and the analogy of women to society. It was very profound. I really enjoyed it.
Behind the Loom was such a beautiful story. It really is a shame that such beautiful scenery and imagery and cinematography had to go with such a tragic story. I think this was very eye-opening. I think a lot of people don't really understand not only the hardships that different women face around the world, but to the extent and how that can tie back to the people making our clothes, the people doing things that we don't think about, like things that we interact with every day, that there's a story behind that, and that leads to something else. And in this case, the woman and her family in this story, I think it was really eye-opening. I think the story was told incredibly well. I think it was really heartbreaking, but you captured the beauty in it still, which is very hard to do. Like I said, the cinematography was wonderful. It was very beautiful. It was a very heart-wrenching story, but overall very, very well done.
All right, I just finished watching Behind the Loom, which I thought was a very well done piece. It had an incredibly strong creative approach. The subject matter is quite dark, obviously, chronicling numerous stories of rape, of abuse, of sort of genocidal movements from the Red Army, historically, and just sort of how trying to interpret these experiences into art. So I thought that there was a really good dichotomy with what you were seeing on screen, the narration of the story, and sort of the emotional appeal that was going on within the piece. I thought that the idea of sort of finding other ways to highlight these type of stories was interesting. Normally, this type of reflection of this type of narrative would be quite dark, even melodramatic, and it might feel exploitative. I thought this piece had an incredible sense of compassion towards the subject matter, and I thought it had a almost tranquil and meditative approach to a subject matter that is quite traumatic and very difficult to overcome once experienced. So I thought that the piece had a real sense of heart in that approach, and used artistic beauty in terms of pacing, rhythm, editing, colors, and light to counterbalance what was going on thematically with what was being explained within the narration. So I thought this was a strong piece. It had a very multimedia feel in terms of, excuse me, in terms of the mood it was able to establish both with lighting and with the music. And I thought that the pacing really worked well in terms of allowing you to sort of meditate and ruminate on these very dark ideas in a way that made force you to look at them facing forward and not trying to size up the reality of what's going on, but sort of trying to unravel why a mother would have to murder her children, a dynamic of a sister letting her younger sister be repeatedly raped. All these dynamics sort of beg for a reflection, and I thought that the piece was trying to encourage with the style in which it was created. So I thought it was well done creatively and very strong emotionally. So I thought I ended up feeling impacted by it for those reasons.
Behind the Loom, family heirlooms, sentimental value, generational trauma. What is it like to be drawn to an object connected to a family tragedy? That's something that our documentarian is intrigued with and plays with in the short. She discovers that the fear of war brought on this demise of members of her family in a murder-suicide situation based on this fear of sexual assault that was happening during the time of this act taking place. the detrimental effects that war has on women. It sort of dives into these details of these stories of struggle that women go through during times of war. And the loom is a standing, tangible metaphor. Oftentimes, it dives into the understanding of the workings of the universe and our place in it. And I think the short just stands for just that for this documentarian.